Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesday. I am happy to be your host again. My name is Lisa Crimes. I am an innovation fellow at HITLAB. And let's just start with a couple of reminders of some upcoming events. The first one is our Women's Health Tech Challenge, which will be February the 10th from 1 to 5. So please join us for that. And then we're very excited about the Age Tech Collaborative from AARP as well, that we're in partnership with about connecting health and wellness in your home. So that one is going to be on February the 16th. And then last but not least is our next Digital Health Symposium coming up on February the 23rd. Be sure to not miss that one. Now for our guest, I am very excited to welcome our guest today, Suzette DiMascio, Executive Vice President with InCircle Review. And I am so thrilled to get to chat with you. And it's been a lot of fun getting to know you more through this process as well. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, and as the ultimate female, just getting over COVID time, I'm looking at my headshot and say, wow, today it actually looks like me. This is good.
That's awesome. Looks exactly like you. Well, why don't we just start, Suzette? Why don't you tell the audience about who you are and give us a little bit about background on yourself?
Sure. So as I said, my name is Suzette DiMascio. I'm currently the Executive Vice President for a fabulous company called FFF Enterprises. And I am actually the EVP that's leading the commercialization of a new division called InCircle Revenue. Excuse me, InCircle Review. Revenue is what we want, as we all do, but it's InCircle Review.
You can tell where your head is right now.
Absolutely.
I
A bunch
love
of times, yes.
Well, let's start the conversation with what we're here for too, around digital health. You know, how did you become involved in digital health, and what's your kind of overall understanding and involvement?
Sure. Well, I've always been a passionate patient advocate. You know, for me, healthcare is all about connecting the right patient to the right treatment or the right drug so that they can get the care that they need. And I think, you know, in my lifetime, I think I've always been an advocate for the underdog. And I think that's kind of where my passion for healthcare has always been. What I love about digital health is that there's so many brilliant people out there that have either come up with a solution or have been through a situation and they said, I can fix this. And so it's fun to see all of the creative talents out there and all of the new opportunities to take better care of patients, engaging them better, connecting with them better, and just making sure everyone's living their best healthy life.
I love that. It does seem like it's constantly changing. So I love the way that you describe that too. Well, I know, speaking of maybe sometimes the underdog, but I know that you really like to pay it forward and mentor other women. So tell me about that and tell me some of the work that you've done there.
Absolutely. Well, I have been fortunate to have some wonderful women in my life mentor me. And as I grew in my career, I wanted to pay it forward. Most recently, for the past 3 or 4 years, I've been doing a lot of work with HBA, which is the Healthcare Businesswomen's Association. And a wonderful woman called Bonnie Lappin reached out to me and said, hey, Suzette, we've got this global ambassador program where we're working with women across the world, actually, that for whatever reason, they don't feel like they have their voice or they're being seen, or they have their seat at the table, and their company really sees them as a high profile individual and they don't want to lose them and outgrow them to go to another company. Would you be interested in helping with that? So I've been working with that for the past 4 years, and it's just been wonderful to see women really get that light bulb experience where they're like, aha, I can do this. I matter. You know, what I have to say has a relevance to my company. So it's very rewarding for me.
Oh, that's so wonderful. It's such an important thing that I don't feel like I always had. I did in some degree. So that is just so important. I'm so glad that you're doing that work too. Well, along those lines too, can you maybe share a little bit about your thoughts around gender equality and where the, you know, kind of that perspective, and also coming from maybe healthcare as well?
Sure. And, I've seen a pivot, even in what our program with HBA. When I started out about 3 or 4 years ago, there weren't any men that were in our sessions, and now there are. And it's really interesting because I always tell the women that you really need to speak to men to understand their perspective. When I had my consulting firm back in the day, I used to always tell the women on my team that they needed to think like a man, but act like a woman. And that meant that
Love
they
that.
needed to be a little bit more strategic and a little bit more open to the differences in diversity. And I think that as pharma in general has really done a good job in the past 5 years, creating a diversity and inclusion teams. Sometimes a lot of them are now having diversity and inclusion leadership. They're making all the changes that they need to support the future. We're not there yet, but I see the baby steps coming, and it's been a big improvement.
Oh, that's awesome. Seeing the progress.
Yes.
Now you're doing some great work over at InCircle as well. How are you helping people? What can you share a little bit with the audience about that as well?
Sure. Well, there's kind of an interesting background on how I actually came to FFF, which you'll probably enjoy. I had my own firm for almost 16 years, CSI Specialty Group, and we were a boutique consulting firm. And I got the chance to meet Patrick Schmidt, who is the CEO of FFF, during a project that we were working with the University Healthcare Consortium. At that time, this is going back, 2014, 2015, healthcare systems were just starting building out specialty pharmacies. And Kevin Colgan arranged who he thought were the leaders in the industry. And I had just started building a specialty pharmacy out for Johns Hopkins. And Patrick and FFF are the predominant leader in specialty pharmacy distribution, so that he was invited as well. And we just struck a friendship and a commonality in helping healthcare care, which is FFF's phrase, I should say, or our tagline, but it really is what FFF stands for. And I'm just honored to be part of the company. And we just have such a great group of people. I'm blessed to have a wonderful team. As you know, Lisa, we've had the chance to work with you over the past year, and just blessed with a great team. And we actually have a really, based on a study that was done, that showed how patients that were taking certain drugs were not only misdiagnosed, but were mistreated. We've actually come up with a solution that can answer and make sure that a clinical decision tool is in place to make sure the right patient's taking the right drug. But I'm surrounded by great people that are doing great things. And we actually have 2 markets that we work in. We work in the primarily in the payer world, helping payers make those decisions to make sure the patient's on the right drugs. And then we also work in the pharmaceutical world. We recently just launched a clinical trial program with an up-and-coming specialty pharmaceutical company. So we're pretty excited about that.
That's so awesome. Again, the tagline is the best because I think it just really speaks to what it is that you're doing and how you're helping patients. So that's fantastic. I love that. Well, let's maybe switch gears just a little bit too, and talk about. I guess we've talked a little bit about what you're doing at FFF, but maybe how that ties in a little bit more to specifically your role and what the opportunity looks like over the next year.
Sure. So when I exited my company, I sold my company and exited in 2019. It was important for me that anything that I do represents my passion, which is patient access and patient care. And I think one of the things that enticed me about coming to work for FFF and helping Patrick commercialize the InCircle review was the fact that this was a novel clinical decision support tool that there really isn't anything out there in the market like it today, which is funny because as you look at digital health, that's the neat thing is when you're able to see an organization start something up that's just novel. And if they just get all the right things aligned, that first domino is going to go and bam, it's just going to be a huge success. So we work with 2 of the leading neuromuscular neurologists in the industry, probably the world, Dr. Todd Levine and Dr. John Katz. And they just are 2 of the most brilliant clinicians I think I've ever met, and they tell us stories where, patients that are on IVIG therapy, for example, that have been diagnosed with a disease have been treated for years only masking the true disease that they have. And the treatment isn't really applicable for what they have. There was a patient that we saw that had been treated for many years, and it turned out that he had familial ALS. And if you know anything about ALS, it's just a time bomb. And just imagine if you're this person's family, you could have been making plans for his life for the past 2 years, but unfortunately he was misdiagnosed and had some level of success with the treatment that he was having, but nothing compared to what was going to happen to him in the future. So it's just really important in healthcare, I think, that, and anyone that's listening that has a new company, that has a digital health idea, that you make sure that you put the patient at the center of everything that you do. And if it isn't going to help the patient and their journey, don't do it. It's just that simple.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is definitely my passion and the reason that I'm in this. So I just love that so much. Well, talking about another subject that we both love so much is you have an 18-month-old grandson.
I do.
Would you like to share a little bit about him and what you're, tying this back into how you're making the world better for him and what that future looks like?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, my grandson's name is Calvin, and he also goes by Calvino, and he goes by Vino, because we're pretty convinced that he's a 75-year-old man just wrapped up in an 18-month-old body.
Oh, I love that.
Just nothing but joy. As a parent, you absolutely love your kids, and you just, watching them grow is such a joy. But grandparenting, even though you and I both are much too young to be grandmothers.
That's right. That's
much
right.
Too young. It's just so much fun seeing life through their eyes. And when they're having their little meltdowns, you just leave. It's just that simple.
I don't have to be your parent, but I can love you. And oh, I love that so much.
Absolutely. Mine now has this thing where the minute that something doesn't go the way he wants, it's Nana, because pretty sure he'll get a yes out of me. But, it's a good question that you ask, is that how are we making the world a better place?
Yeah.
And I think you do it one day at a time. I think from a family perspective, it's investing the time in that child, and it's investing the time in the future. But it's also in the things that we do every day. How are we helping others? How are we making a difference? Is there a way that we can make a patient's life better? We had a situation that happened recently at our company where one of our employees had reached out to Patrick and myself regarding a family member that was a little boy that had a brain tumor. And they told him that it was inoperable as parents, and that basically they needed to just figure out what to do with the rest of his life, which probably wasn't going to be long. And they felt in their heart that they weren't getting the right answer. And so the parents were reaching out to anyone that could help. So I actually started getting on the call. They were looking for clinical trials. And I reached out to a good friend of mine, Jordan Johnson, who does a lot of work in the oncology world. And Jordan was able to connect them to a clinical trial. Fast forward a year later, the timing was just right for this little boy, got in the clinical trial. Not only did he get approved for it, but when they did the studies to get him into this trial, they found out with what was, he was told that he had an inoperable tumor, that it was actually operable. And so they were able to go in.
Wow.
They got 90% of the tumor. The trial cleared the rest. And as of fall of this year, right before Christmas, he got a clean bill of health. And that's helping healthcare care. It's reaching out to your network. If you don't know an answer, don't stop till you find someone that does to help someone.
Oh my gosh, what a wonderful story, and one that we don't always get to hear. So, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that one. That's amazing. Kind of, we've talked a little bit about this, kind of, thinking about businesses and helping them grow too. You've got a great entrepreneurial background and perspective, and, having your own consulting firm, what advice do you have for other women that are entering that entrepreneurial space? And, what could you share with them?
Don't let anyone tell you no is the first thing that I would share with them. And, it was funny. I had a conversation with someone that works for me, and she was getting a promotion, and she was just overwhelmed with excitement. But also she said, all of my friends told me that at my age, I could never do this. and I could never get where I wanted to get. And I said, well, that's your first problem. Don't listen to what anyone tells you your altitude needs to be. You're the only one that determines that. You know, my mother told me in my life, the only thing that I could never be is a psychiatrist because I talk too much. But other than that, you know, anything I ever got involved with, she always encouraged me. I came home and wanted to sell Girl Scout cookies. So we went out for 3 days and hit every condo in New Smyrna. And so I won the award for Girl Scout cookies, which I think is what started my love of sales. It was that ambition of going out and accomplishing something. Now, 20 years later, I found out I was 3 boxes shy of winning the #1 award. Since she was good friends with the Girl Scout leader, she bought 4 boxes, so I won. So, you know, parents can sometimes, you know, wreak a little havoc, but it also caused an opportunity for me to always want to stretch to be #1. So I think that as women, you know, we have to build a network around us. We need to really embrace paying it forward, because one of the things that women don't do as good of a job as men do is we tend to be snarky on the side. Well, I guess that she knows somebody at the top. Wonder who her husband's best friends with. No, you need, if a woman gets a promotion or a seat at the table, find out how they did it. Don't criticize them. I want to surround myself with people that are successful, because there's going to be a day that I need them to say, how did you do it? Make me feel better because I'm having a bad day. And so you've got to surround yourself by success. Don't look at what your roadblocks are. There is a wonderful woman out there, Julia Reagan, that started a company called RX Lightning. And I remember Julia doing a think tank when I was on the NASP board of directors, and she came out and pitched her company. And I had a conversation with her afterwards. She didn't win. And it was very much like your health tech women startups that you do with HITLAB. She didn't win. And she says, what should I do different? I said, nothing, just be you. You've got the passion, you have a commitment to, and you have a vision for what you want to do. And now our company is wonderfully successful and competing with Cover My Meds, which is a huge prior authorization portal.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and she's done it because she surrounded herself by great people. She believes in her mission, and the patient is at the forefront of everything she develops. And that's, you know, when you do the right things right, success and money always come. And that's something that my dad taught me at a very early age, and something that I teach my kids and eventually my grandson.
Oh my gosh, and a granddaughter too. I probably shouldn't share that, huh?
Well, we're hoping for a granddaughter.
You'll have more.
We're not sure, but we're hoping that it's pink. I want healthy first and pink second.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, I love all of that, Suzette. It's so I'm so encouraged when I hear successful women like yourself and people at this stage in our career that are just truly supporting each other and challenging each other, but supporting each other at the same time. I mean, I need it constantly, and I just appreciate that. So I've learned a lot from you just even hearing it. So you're obviously a woman of many talents and passions. Could you tell us about the advisory work and how maybe you're helping some other companies as well? Yeah, on some of your board advisory work.
One of the things when I joined FFF, I chatted with Patrick and I said, you know, one of the things that I'm passionate about is giving back and helping others. And also, I guess the nosy side of me wants to keep in touch with all the neat things that are happening out there in the marketplace. And I'd like to sit on advisory boards of up and coming companies. I actually just joined one recently. It's a company called Icon International. And there's just a fascinating company that's just looking at ways to pivot to get into healthcare. And they offer a unique mechanism to help organizations that have underutilized assets find a way to utilize them. And when I started, when I was introduced to them by a former VP of sales, Jay Goebel, that used to work for me, who is probably the best salesperson I've ever met in my entire life, just love him to death. I started to think, wow, is this a way that we could potentially pivot opportunities for donation for free drug or for foundation, or for ways to help, like right now with the tragedy in Turkey and Syria? You know, how can an organization take an underutilized asset and pivot it to be able to do something good with it? So it's exciting to be able to be part of that and to see organizations realizing that they can get a little bit more help to healthcare and help patients in general.
That's awesome. How do you often find these organizations that need assistance?
They usually just find me.
They find you.
Yeah, it's
Through
by network.
relationships. Mm-hmm.
They usually reach out to me. I've done a lot of work in telehealth in the past, and I've helped
Yeah.
a couple of telehealth companies and some different specialty pharmacy organizations and so forth. And it's a lot of fun. For me, again, it's giving back. It's taking my information, and if I can connect an organization to someone else, and then that in fact leads to something better for a patient, then I feel it's a win-win. So I love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
I'd encourage everyone to look at doing something like that in their career too, because it helps to pay back and it helps to give back, and it's just fun. It's fun.
An expansion of kind of what you're already working on too. So I love that. Yeah, that's great.
It's all networking. And,
Yeah.
I think as women, we sometimes, that's where men do a lot better than women, is networking and building that network. I think now, because of organizations like yourselves, HBA, WBL, things of that nature, women have really come together and have looked at how to network. When I had my firm, CSI Specialty Group, I got my WBE certification as a women-owned business, and they have a wonderful program as well. And for any women that are women-owned businesses that are listening, if I would definitely look at getting your WBE certification. That offers you an unimaginable, I should say, amount of resources that really help you navigate your way in the marketplace.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, we're nearing the end here, and but we still have a few minutes. So this is a really important question too that kind of ties it all together. But just what are some of your words of advice for younger women, specifically, that want to participate in digital health and pharma? What advice would you offer?
I think the first thing is to make sure that you have a posse. And by that, I mean, make sure that you have a group of people that you can run things by. You want to have mentors that are in the industry and mentors that are out of the industry. One of the most important pieces of advice that I got when I started my company was, you can't do it all. And I think as women, we think we can. We think we can juggle, family, and we can do this, and we can rescue a cat, and we can take a dog for a walk, and we can do all this. And you can, but you actually need to have a posse. And you need to have a group of people that can help you understand what you should take. A leadership group, I know there's a lot of great resources at HITLAB for organizations that are part of you and resources. But, I wasn't an accountant, and I wasn't going to do my books every day. So I hired a great accountant. Legal, I hired a great attorney. I did what I knew my core success and strengths were, and I outsourced the rest. And that really helped me a lot, because I didn't have to worry about going in Saturday morning with my head down low, having to do my bookkeeping because I hated it. I always tease my team, if you get something from me at midnight that I've completed, that's a task I didn't want to do, and I put it off, but I knew I had to do it and clear it off my desk before the next day came. And so as an entrepreneur, you want to focus all of your energy and all of your talent towards what you do best, and let everyone else do the rest. When you try to do everything yourself, you lose the core, and you lose that spirit of esprit, that excitement that you get every day when you go in and you start, how am I going to take my business to the next level today?
Oh my gosh, great advice. Absolutely. Well, it looks like we've got a couple of questions from the audience. If you're open to these, I'm going to just keep going. So can you speak to the disruption happening in the industry? They speak specifically Mark Cuban, et cetera, along those lines.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Cost Plus. Huge fan. Any of my friends or colleagues that know me, if they start talking about medicine, they'll get Cost Plus drugs from me. It's really interesting to see the disruption. The organization that I think that we need to watch is Cost Plus. I mean, Mark Cuban's done a wonderful job at, taking the middleman out of the equation. And one of the things that I've seen, even for myself, like I take levothyroxine, and I was paying $15 a month for my script. And through Mark Cuban's resource, for 3 months, it was $6.80. And it got shipped to my house 2 days after I ordered it. with no problem and no insurance indication whatsoever. It was just self-pay. So I think we're going to see more models disrupt healthcare because, let's face it, insurance isn't getting any cheaper and there has to be some alternatives. It always shocks me that an MRI in Florida is different cost than an MRI in Texas, but I can buy a Toyota for the same price around the country. How does that happen?
Right.
So healthcare's got to change to accommodate the multitude of people that are utilizing it. And I think organizations like Cost Plus are making a disruption in it. And it's exciting to see. Amazon's tried, and now CVS just bought one of the largest set of outpatient clinics that with a Medicare focus, Oak Street Health, just I think yesterday. So I think you're seeing odd bedfellows get together, but there's a method to their madness, and it's decreasing cost.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Well, so one last question, and we're going to flip back over to the support around women. How can women keep strong in their boundaries between work and personal life? That's often a question that we hear, and I know you've got some great advice around that.
Don't put a boundary around it, because you are your work and you are your family. There is no boundary. You just have to let your team know and your family know what priority you're working on.
That's perfect.
It's so important to do that. My husband knows that 2 nights a week, I do my research. I spend a couple hours, I'm looking at new articles, I'm checking to see, new ideas for my company that for FFF and for InCircle. And, those are my nights. He doesn't plan anything. And on the flip side, if I have an event with my family, my team knows that I have an event, and unless there's a fire, don't call me. And it's just, there's no real boundaries. You can't put boundaries. You just have to embrace both of them and give both the respect that they need and be present. If you're working, be working. If you're with your family, be with your family.
Don't set boundaries. Know what your priorities are. Correct. I love it. That's so awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
You're
it's
welcome.
So wonderful to talk to you and hear more about your background. Thank you for sharing this with the audience. Very, very wonderful. And it looks like we've got just a couple of reminders as we're leaving. So thank you again to our sponsors that allow us to continue our women's health tech. And also next week, I am excited to continue and interview again next week. We have DM Pramazic from Change Healthcare, who I have also worked with in the past and very excited to get to talk to and chat with next week. So look forward to seeing her. Suzette, just lastly, again, thank you so much for being here, telling us more about InCircle Review, as well as your background and your support for women and all the great work that you're doing. So great to chat with you, and I'm sure I will be talking to you soon.
Thanks so much. I enjoyed it. Fast 30 minutes.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.